This is for Katie. We're videotaping. This is for Katie. All right. And the reason we're doing that is, well, we just finished a good discussion, but it seemed like you are excited about your future. A couple days ago, you were a little concerned. You had some fear in your eyes. We had a conversation. Tuesday night, we're going to just process this as a class. A couple nights ago, we had our Shark Tank event, and I just wanted to ask a couple questions. First one, what was like your favorite moment from that? What kind of stood out as just something fun, or and then we'll ask about what you learned from it. But first, something that just jumped out at you as a fun part of that evening? Anyone can jump in here.
I think it was fun seeing that we've had these ideas and we've processed it all semester, but being able to bring in the public and other opinions, I think that was really fun to hear opinions, hear ideas, and to get encouragement about this is where you could take it, and these are the good things you're doing so far.
Yeah, it was fun to hear other people out of our circle get excited about our ideas and what we accomplish.
Can I have the constructive criticism too?
Yeah.
Like you guys are saying, the fresh eyes, but also these people just really want to see us succeed as fellow Bethel grads themselves.
Even the tough questions were meant well, but it was kind of cool how we had kind of the loving, encouraging, and then the tough question.
I really enjoyed the part where I'm doing a business that an entrepreneur actually is doing himself, and I got my idea kind of from him, so it was fun to talk to him, and it's like actualize the business, so it was fun to hopefully be able to work with him as well.
Favorite part?
Favorite part from
My favorite part is when Bug Commander was up there and one of the sharks almost wrote a check right to him. That was my favorite part.
That was nice. That was a fun. But
my favorite part is when Max got done and then you looked to the sharks for questions and the two guys looked at each other and they're like, "You first. I have so many questions." That was the best.
Yeah. And even starting off with Steve in gear.
That was good.
That was good. Coming in gear.
Yeah, that was good.
Okay. Any other fun memories from Tuesday night?
Cookies were great.
Yeah, the lemon.
It's always
I
good.
like the oatmeal cookies, but yeah, they were all
You
delicious.
got
Okay. So leaving the fun and then more from an educational or just what was a big takeaway or what did you learn on Tuesday night that you're going to take away either in your business or in general?
Going into the presentation, I full well knew that my financial slide was pretty vague and not specific, and I knew that going in full well. But I think each person, minus maybe Bug Commander, probably could have improved on their finances just because we're not active. And Steve too, he's active too. But those who aren't actually active, day in and day out, don't have as firm of a grasp on their on their finances, and at the end the guy said if you're gonna start a business, you need to know your numbers inside and out, and I was like, yeah, that's true.
Guess this wasn't my favorite part of the night, but I shared one 30-second clip of the night with two finance profs. Adam's comment about keeping the finance book and that the class, but they loved it. They both loved it. So that's probably their favorite. That's probably their highlight, is to put that somewhere on the Bethel website. Okay. Any? So this was key takeaways, something you learned that you're going to bring forward in either your business or just in life.
Well, it wasn't necessarily during the presentation or during the talk then, but afterwards I got to talk to Trent for a second and just kind of realizing that with building a brand and selling through Amazon, you don't necessarily have to build that brand to the extent that you think you would, because people are just buying these products that they want, necessarily not buying the brand right away because it's off Amazon. Mm-hmm. So just understanding that you can just find products that work and not necessarily have to sell the brand as much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For me, it was how real this could be, especially like when they were talking about Luke's, like, hey, you could blow this up, like, different ideas going to commercial places and whatnot, and I thought that was pretty cool, and have some insight on people that see this going somewhere versus just a conversation we've had.
Going off of that, I thought it was cool. Who was the finance guy? What was his name again?
The one on the far left, so that was Michael.
Okay, so like Michael has taken like huge risks, and like when he was talking about like partnerships and making sure that you have like good partnerships, because like him speaking from personal experience had lost like 6 digits worth, you know, in bad partnerships. And so it's just that, one, it's a good reminder to find like partners that you get along with, but two, like you can lose like really hardcore and still like come back and like recover from that and still be like a successful business person. So I thought that was pretty powerful.
Kind of going off of that.
Partnerships.
Yeah, so beginning of my presentation, I was going into a partnership, and at the end, I wasn't. And so I think yes, partnership is really important, but also being confident enough in yourself to say, I don't need this person to help me start this. It's going to be a lot harder. You're going to have to work a lot more, but in the long run, depending on what you want your business to be, it might not be best to get in with somebody. So I think just knowing yourself and knowing the business enough to say, I know what I want, and maybe this person isn't in the best interest of it, and being brave enough to go out on your own.
So are you willing to share a decision that you've made? I haven't even talked to you about it. Did you make a decision from Tuesday to today?
Yeah, so I'm not going into business with Allie at all, and I'm
Hashtag.
she's a genuinely awesome person. It's just not the place I can take my business. And so I'm going into floral shops. Already contacted a bunch of people, contacted more bloggers. Trent and I are hooking up with some stuff with his MN Proud business. So it's been amazing to see how when I decided on Tuesday night, like, nope, I'm not doing this, how many sales I did yesterday. Like that was the busiest sales day ever. And also like how much support and opportunities came up yesterday. It was just amazing, and like, yep, this is the right way to go.
Yeah, and literally I can see it in your face that you were different today than you were Monday.
Yeah, I'm so much happier about this summer.
Other comments, something you learned?
I guess with mine, I mean, I didn't really think about it. I knew CDs are declining, but just the fact that he really pointed that out, like, that's true. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Like, given the thing is, like, we're still gonna produce CDs regardless.
Well, you gotta produce vinyl. You gotta produce vinyl now. You gotta do a vinyl.
It's gonna be significantly less because people still want the physical property, and especially I don't know where you guys are at, but like when I really like a band, I will buy their music, especially an upcoming band, because half the time they don't have an iTunes or a Spotify. So that is the way that you can listen to their music. So as a starting band, that is a way to start, but also do digital downloads and things like that. So.
I think it was Michael that talked about how many, like, made me realize that you can't just come up with a good business idea and then just like try and run with it. One thing he said was like he's come up with like 10 business ideas, and he writes out the financial first and figures out if it's actually going to work, and then writes out a business plan to decide from that. That was interesting.
Yeah, he said like it's easy to get super like gung ho about your idea and get really like optimistic and really excited, and then that's like what drives you to do it. But yeah, that's.
When you saw how quickly he just did a napkin calculation to figure out, all right, is this, and that was the same thing I was doing with yours. What might the cost be? I mean, that's one of the Shark Tank questions. What's your cost per unit going to be? What's your sale? What are you going to sell to retail? What are you going to sell online?
Makes me wonder, that that stat of how many businesses fail per how many like succeed makes me wonder like how many of those people just were going into it just on pure optimism and like no like numbers or metrics.
And that's where going back to lean, you know, okay, you can hate the book, you can hate everything about it, but going back to MVP and testing your hypothesis, I mean, I really hope that idea of testing your hypothesis and systems from E-Myth from last semester are two things that you take forward into your journey.
I think that's one of the biggest things that this class has pushed is to verify all your ideas first. Yep.
Do as cheap as possible.
Yeah. So let's transition into, imagine that someone next year is thinking about taking this class. What do you say to them, either to encourage them to take it or to give them hints on how to best succeed, you know, in their last year or their last semester of entrepreneurship, innovation and entrepreneurship?
If I wouldn't decide to be an entrepreneurship major, I would still be just doing 1-2 jobs every once in a while, just with a chainsaw and anything easy, and then I'd be working for someone else doing it.
Well, if you weren't an entrepreneurship major, you probably wouldn't be in school right now. So the idea of growth in your business and thinking of doing more than what you were doing.
Yeah, it was nice to have this class to have the class time as time to be thinking about my business, whereas otherwise I might not have had time to be thinking about what I need to be doing next and stuff like that. How do I grow my business? So this class really helped me to grow to the point where I'm a legitimate company.
Steve, the legit tree guy. You're now Steve, the legit tree guy.
You know?
I'll take it. So I think we all have our passions and our dreams in life, but because of just how we're raised or whatever, those can get translated into just being dreams and not turning into reality. And I think, and that's what it was for me at the beginning of this year. I was going into this year thinking, okay, I'm going to go get a desk job, and that's going to be the end of my life.
The end of my life.
But I think entrepreneurship really takes what you're learning in marketing and finance and everything, and it's just a big mixing pot of everything you're learning, and it really helps you apply what you're learning, but it helps you dream realistically and put what your passions are into practice. And so now, instead of waiting 10 years to open my own boutique, I did it within 3 months of having that idea. And so it helps you make things realistic, and it helps you achieve what you want to get to.
So Steve, the tree guy, had a business, and a student could come in and legitimately work on their business, or they could come into their senior year not knowing what they're going to do, and they could come up with a business, and in 3-4 months.
Right, it makes it realistic and it makes it happen.
Then kind of like going off of that, I totally lost my thought. Oh, like with pulling all the courses together, I think like there should almost be like one entrepreneurship class that's like required for everybody that kind of pulls together all the different like emphases. Yeah.
Otherwise, like Michael said, I didn't even know that an invoice is something that you send to the supplier, or you get from the supplier and you send to your customer.
Because like even as just like a business student, like you should be able to have a basic knowledge of every different thing.
Right.
And
see how they play together.
Yeah, there almost should be like a principles of entrepreneurship that you take after you take all the other ones or something. And then like the other thing.
Would it be the principles of entrepreneurship, or would it be this, or would it be this? It would be something some version of this.
It could just be like business 101. Just like learn about all the different aspects of business. Like that's what entrepreneurship is. You're like
business 401.
Yeah, I don't know if it's 101.
Yeah. It's what we would hope is in a 101, but applied in a real world setting.
Like or maybe like have a class where like the whole class like tries to run a business or something.
Yeah.
Well, in managerial finance, you have to go through simulation.
Yeah.
And right now, something that my team members are running into, they're like, I can think about the finance aspect, but when you think about the marketing and then the research development and all these different aspects, they keep looking at me like, okay, let's think about this big picture and company-wide, because we're so trained in one field. But entrepreneurship is every single field, and so it helps you think bigger picture. And even if you don't want to go into entrepreneurship, it adds to your value and adds to your like personal brand, because you're able to think that big picture.
I feel like on top of just the classroom aspect, all of the speakers that have come have added a lot of value to what we've learned. Not just reading like the books and doing our business on our own, but just being able to talk to people in the real world and see how they're like working their businesses and the problems they run into and stuff like that. I think that's really add a lot of value.
And like, to me, the entrepreneurship, having everything tied together and knowing how every aspect works together is so much bigger than knowing finance really well. Because for finance, you can find anything you need on the internet in less than 5 minutes. Entrepreneurship, you can't figure out how to tie this aspect to this aspect. That's something you can't read a document and figure out. It's something you gotta do.